Room 442 is brought to you by North Star Bets. That's a win. Hello and welcome into Room 442. I'm James Sharman. Sarah Perario joins me as well. Okay, Sarah, the Women's World Cup, it's behind us. It was some month. Mm-hmm. Spain are your world champions.
Yeah, they are.
They hadn't won a World Cup match until this tournament. Mm-hmm. Everything's changing in world football. What a performance, and by far the better team against England in the final.
Yeah. I mean, I'm so happy for them, and they are now, alongside the men, one of the only nations to win both World Cups for both the men and women, alongside Germany. So history is being made. But yeah, you're right. They didn't do well in World Cups prior to this, but we've seen how dominant this Spanish team has become, and I think it really goes back to the roots of Spanish football in general. Like this is top quality football. These ladies are playing at high levels. We know lots of Barcelona players, Real Madrid, and it just shows how dominant football is in Spain. And I think we've seen it with the men for so long now, and now the women have been playing club level like that, and now they win a World Cup. And I think it just goes to show how well they've done with, developing the game there.
Well, you look at the young players coming through. These are world champions at that youth grade level. It does really compare to 08, 10 and 12 on the men's side.
Yeah.
This could be a dynasty starting for Spanish women's football.
Absolutely. I mean, we know Salma Paruelo, she won the U17 World Cup, the U20, and now she's won the Women's World Cup.
It's incredible.
Yes, it is incredible. But no, it is true. It's really amazing, and I think the better team, maybe the best team in the tournament, which I feel when we were talking about it last week, we were saying both England and Spain were probably the two best teams, and it was very deserved. And I think the better team won, and we know they had that massive loss to Japan, but we also thought maybe that's a good thing. You have to kind of go through the adversities and whatnot, and it they came out on the other side.
The old galvanizing the team, and this team came through adversity, right? You look at their coach,
oh my God,
Jorge Vilda, he's despised by the players. Mm-hmm. Yet post-match, the federation sent this tweet aboard, Vilda in, which just turns the stomach of a lot of players. Just a year ago, 15 players wrote to the federation and said, we want this guy out. The federation said, nope, sorry. Most of those players didn't make the World Cup squad.
Yeah.
So it's an understrength World Cup squad.
Yeah.
Right? Fair to say. They all hate the manager, and they still won the World Cup. Yeah. That's how you galvanize behind a leadership group, I guess, in the room.
Well, I think that's the biggest story here, is that we have to look at these players, because it is about the players. I know the Spanish Football Federation has a lot of issues, and maybe Jorge Vilda as well, but these ladies were the ones that got the job done. And they did it, maybe going through all these kind of issues behind the scene, but I think that's the bigger thing, is that they went through all of this and they still managed to win. You're right, they didn't even have a full strength team, because you have players like Mape Leon staying back in Barcelona because she doesn't want to play, but you got to give credit to the players. And I think it's I'm so tired. I've seen this a lot on social media, but I'm so tired of people talking about Spain as a whole here, and their federation kind of tainting their team and stuff. Give the players their credit. Yeah. That's not fair.
Do they keep Vilda? or do they have to get rid of him? And tweet aside, you're looking about this team building towards a European Championship in a couple of years' time now. They have a lot of currency now with the fan base. The players do. Mm-hmm. I don't know why he'd want to stay there either, quite honestly. You saw that the celebrations post-match, it was almost cringeworthy at times, how the players just weren't really involving him. Yeah. Okay, he's jumping in, but there's a lot of staff around him right now. I don't see too many players there right now, do you?
No.
So I don't know why he'd want to stay, but do the Federation really have any choice but to move on from him, who's so unpopular?
I mean, I think this would make a really good time for them to go in separate directions, because they've won the World Cup. They've done basically what they've needed to do here. But now it's like, okay, let's go our separate ways, because is there any more he can even give at this point too? So I think the best decision would be to go forward and kind of restart with enough time to prep for the Euros. We know that the team has the talent, and they are growing talent as well. So that's not the concern. It's just kind of like getting adjusted to a new manager. I don't think it's a bad idea, because I think they also kind of want to wash away all this tainted drama around them right now.
As for England, speaking of tainted drama, not so much drama, but as an England supporter, I've seen my teams over the years crash out in quarterfinals and semi-finals and a Euro final. It's always been the men letting down the side. Now the women have that moment of crushing disappointment. It just feels so very English in so many ways. They weren't great in the final. They can play better than that, but I think maybe Spain made them play a certain way that they couldn't get the ball. They had to play very direct in the end. And the choice by the manager, Wiegman, to drop Lauren James from the starting 11.
Curious.
You can see why she did it to begin with. She was suspended for 2 games, but in the end, it was the wrong choice, was it not?
Yeah, I mean, if you have Lauren James playing for a full 90 minutes, that's much better than playing for 45 minutes, right? So it is hard to say. I think she was trying to obviously be loyal to the players that had gotten them to the World Cup final, of course, in the semis, or the quarters in the semis. But Lauren James was the player of the tournament for England until that match where she got suspended, and then she did miss 2 games, sure, but she was on fire. And I think sometimes coaches have to make this really difficult decision where you have to say, okay, listen, I know she got sent off, there's other players that have stepped in, but if you know that's your best player, you gotta play them.
Well, clearly, because they weren't the same. And in the end, Wiegman, who was touted as being the greatest manager in football for much of this tournament, and she is. She's a wonderful manager, but it wasn't her finest hour, I don't think. But this happens in big games, and in the end, the better team won. It's fair to say. So the World Cup's behind us. A thoroughly enjoyable World Cup. We had drama, we had great goals, massive upsets. I mean, nothing was predictable in this tournament. Overall, would you say it was a huge success?
Yeah, Spain won. No, but joking aside, I think it was great because I think there was such a narrative going into this World Cup because of the expansion. Now they had 32 teams that were involved, like the men's tournament, and people were saying, but now we're going to see, the likes of the U.S. women's national team playing a team like, I don't know, let's say a Haiti or something, the lower level teams, the smaller nations. And boy, were they wrong, because we've seen a team like Colombia go to the quarterfinals of this, Jamaica getting out of the group stage, Australia without Sam Kerr playing in a third place final as well. Like, I think it just shows that women's football has grown so much, and all these big other teams, including Canada, need to step it up because it's caught up to them. It's caught up to the U.S. We've seen Germany. Yes, I know the final was still a Spain versus England, which are 2 very massive footballing nations. We know this, but I think it's so great to see some of these smaller nations really step up on the world stage.
I think because we look at through the lens of North America,
sure,
we see the US crash out, Canada having a really poor World Cup. The time the games were on, the TV numbers wouldn't be that great throughout the tournament because of where it is. I think it's easy to look at it as not being a great success, but I think you're right. It just demonstrates where the women's game is going in world sport, and now it's up to Canada to step up and find a way. They've got so many issues right now, but I look at the gap, like you said there, it isn't closing, it is closed.
Yeah.
And I really worry about the future for the women's team because it's going to get harder and harder and harder.
I think it's going to be, honestly, this is just a gut feeling, but I think Canada's going to struggle for a couple of years. Like, I think this is going to need a lot of rebuilding, a lot of help, obviously a lot of fixing what's broken behind the scenes, but it is great for these other nations. And I do get what you're saying as well, though, in terms of North America, we didn't maybe feel as if it was a good World Cup in that sense. If you weren't watching it like us and keeping up to date, I mean, I can't blame you because the games were on at the worst times. And I think that's something that FIFA needs to look at for next time, because you have all of North America and South America within, I think, about 3 time zones or so. And they're all got affected by it. So you're talking about US, Canada, Brazil, 3 major women's football nations. So I mean that was unfortunate, and like you mentioned, Canada crashed out, the US crashed out, but I think I'm just trying to look at it from a global perspective instead of just the North American one, and in that aspect it was great. North America, not so much.
Yeah, no, I think overall it's probably grown, but you're right. Get behind women's soccer, simple as that. Just because the World Cup's finished now, don't go away. We've got a professional league kicking off in Canada in a couple of years' time with Project 8. Look into that. It's really, really important. These are good times, I think, for women's soccer, despite the disappointment of the national team for Canada and, of course, the United States. Football fans, listen, we have given you an opportunity to win a lot of money if you know your Premier League football. 442picks.ch, free to play. Sign up. You can win a grand prize potentially of $250,000, and we're giving away weekly prizes. every single week, every single month, if you know your stuff in the Premier League. Room 442 is brought to you by North Star Bets. That's a win.